Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise so you can get truly well informed. Go picture this. You're planning that dream trip. Crystal clear waters, amazing street food, ancient temples, on pretty much everyone's list, right? We are talking about Thailand, a truly beloved, world-renowned destination. But what if I told you this paradise is actually facing its toughest tourism challenge in years? Today we're going deep on the current state and the future predictions for Thailand's foreign tourism sector in 2025. And our insights today, they're coming straight from a really detailed research report. It was published May 16, 2025. And honestly, it paints a picture that might surprise a lot of you. The ones who think of Thailand as just endless beaches and bustling markets. This report reveals a pretty unexpected shift.
Yeah, and our mission here really is to unpack the specific reasons why Thailand's tourism is predicted to contract for the first time in 3 years. We want to move beyond just the common ideas, and really get into the underlying factors driving this shift. Help you grasp the nuances of what's happening in global travel right now.
All right, so that's a surprising start. Let's zoom in on the present. What's the immediate situation? What are the numbers telling us on the ground?
Okay, so from January 1st up to May 11th, 2025, Thailand welcomed 12.9 million foreign tourists.
Sounds a lot.
It does, but here's the thing. That's actually a 1% decline compared to the same time last year, year on year.
Okay.
And it's not just the number of people. The estimated tourism revenue for this period, that also saw a 2% year-on-year decline. It totals around 613,168 million baht.
Wow, 613 billion baht, that's still huge. But a 2% drop is significant at that scale.
Exactly. And what's crucial to understand is that this downward trend, it's been continuous since February 2025, not just a one-off dip.
Continuous since February. Huh. So that 1% might sound small, but it's persistent. Did Creasearch pinpoint when it really started picking up steam, or is it more of a slow burn? And taking that current dip into account, what's the projection for the whole year? Is this just temporary, you think, or something bigger?
Well, research's projection for the full year, 2025, estimates around 34.5 million foreign tourists. Okay.
And that figure represents a 2.8% contraction. That's a noticeable dip. And like we said, it would mark Thailand's first decline in 3 years.
Right.
This also means, in terms of money, a projected 1.62 trillion baht in tourism revenue from foreign visitors.
1.62 trillion.
Yeah, which is a 3% decrease from 2024. And importantly, this forecast is notably lower than the assessments they made earlier in the year.
So things are looking worse than they initially thought.
It suggests a more significant ongoing challenge, yes.
Okay, the numbers are clear. It's a decline. But the big question, I think, for me and probably for many listening is why? Thailand's been such a tourism powerhouse for so long. What are the underlying reasons Creasearch is pointing to here?
Well, digging deeper into that Creasearch report, we found basically 4 interconnected reasons. It's quite a complex picture. It's definitely not just one single thing, more like a perfect storm brewing under the surface.
Right. The first major factor is the global economic slowdown. Pretty straightforward, really. A slowing global economy directly hits travel plans, hits spending money. When people feel the pinch, they're more likely to look for budget options, maybe closer to home, or just put off trips altogether.
Makes sense.
And we have data on this. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, they revised their global economic growth forecast for 2025 downwards. They did this back in April, dropped to 2.8%. That was down from 3.3% they predicted just in January.
That's a pretty quick revision downward.
It is, and you also have to factor in the ongoing impact of trade wars. That affects global purchasing power.
How so?
Well, trade wars can push up the cost of goods, create job insecurity. It basically squeezes people's wallets, makes them less likely to splurge on a big international trip because their money just doesn't go as far. Then, the second big factor, geopolitical issues.
Okay, international politics.
Exactly. Tensions, conflicts, they really dent traveler confidence, and sometimes they cause actual logistical problems, like flight paths getting closed.
Any specific examples affecting Thailand?
Yeah, the report mentions the conflict between India and Pakistan back in early May. That directly impacted tourists from both countries who had trips planned to Thailand. And beyond that, the ongoing situation in the Middle East, the Russia-Ukraine war, these things cast a long shadow. Even natural disasters play a role. The report notes earthquakes in Myanmar and Thailand led some tourists to just postpone their travel.
Okay, so we've got these big external pressures, the economy, geopolitics, but you mentioned the report suggests there's something happening inside Thailand too, making it less attractive.
Yes, and that leads us to the third factor, which kind of raises the question, Why might Thailand itself be seen as less competitive now?
Right.
And this breaks down into two parts. First, the image of safety.
Safety, that's surprising for Thailand.
Well, apparently several incidents since early 2025 have negatively impacted how safe people feel, especially Chinese tourists. There was a Dragon Trail survey in April 2025. It found only 19% of Chinese tourists felt confident in Thailand's safety.
Only 19%.
Yeah, and worse, a significant 51% viewed it as unsafe.
51%. Wow, that is a huge shift, especially for a market as vital as China. What happened?
The report points to some highly publicized incidents, unfortunately involving tourist harm. These got amplified very quickly on social media, particularly in China, and that seems to have eroded trust. And adding to that, unrest in the 3 southern border provinces led Malaysia to actually issue travel warnings, telling its citizens to avoid those areas.
Okay, so safety perception is one internal issue. What's the other part?
The second part is rising costs and the value for money aspect.
Okay. Things getting more expensive.
Pretty much. The cost of tourism services, hotels, etc. has gone up in Thailand compared to many competitors. Get this, the average daily rate, the ADR, for hotel rooms in Thailand in 2024, it increased by 34% compared to 2019 before COVID.
34%.
Yeah, and that's higher than the average increase for a sample group of similar countries, which was about 28.3%.
So hotels in Thailand got more expensive faster than in comparable destinations.
Exactly. Think about it like this. For every $100 you spent pre-COVID on a room, you're now spending $34 more in Thailand, but maybe only $28 more elsewhere. That difference adds up. And it's not just hotels. Prices for other things like food and restaurants have also risen because businesses have higher costs themselves.
But wait, isn't inflation happening everywhere post-COVID? And isn't Thailand still generally seen as affordable compared to, say, Europe? Why is this cost increase hitting them harder?
You're right, inflation is global. But the issue for Thailand seems to be less about the absolute price and more about the perceived value compared to other places fighting for the same tourists. Look at the average spending per person per trip. In Thailand, it's around $1,300 US.
Okay.
Compare that to Japan, where it's about $1,600, or Singapore, $1,700.
So people spend less overall in Thailand.
Yes, which suggests that after they pay for the flight and the now more expensive accommodation, they might have less left over for other things. So travelers start asking, am I getting the same bang for my buck here as I used to or as I would in, say, Vietnam? And the data suggests maybe not as much.
I see. It's about the relative value proposition weakening.
Precisely. Which leads directly into our fourth factor, increased international tourism competition.
Everyone else wants those tourists too.
Exactly. Many countries are really aggressively developing their tourism sectors now. They're getting strong government support to attract foreign visitors.
Like who? What are they doing?
Well, South Korea, for instance, is thinking about offering visa-free entry for Chinese group tours in Q3 2025. That's high season for Chinese travel. That could definitely pull people away from Thailand. Vietnam is working on a 10-year golden visa to attract foreigners.
So South Korea with visa waivers, Vietnam with long-term visas. It sounds like a global arms race for tourists. It's clearly not just about having a nice beach anymore, is it?
Absolutely not. It's a strategic battle. And you can see it in the flight data, too. Scheduled international flights to China are showing 18% growth for the first 9 months of 2025 compared to last year. Japan's up 16%.
Okay. And Thailand?
Thailand only shows an 8% increase in scheduled flights.
Only 8%, compared to 18% and 16%.
Right. Think of it like airlines voting with their planes. They're adding way more capacity, more flights to China and Japan. It's getting easier, maybe cheaper to fly there. Thailand's growth in flight accessibility is much slower. Fewer new seats means less potential for tourist growth. It directly impacts numbers.
That flight data really paints a picture. Okay, so these factors explain the slowdown. But what does this mean for the types of tourists coming to Thailand and its specific countries they rely on?
Well, the report clearly shows declines from some major markets.
Yeah.
China, Malaysia, South Korea are all down.
Key markets.
Very key. Also declines from Laos, Vietnam, and Hong Kong.
Is anywhere still growing?
Yes, it's not all negative. There is growth, but it's just not enough right now to offset those big declines. We're seeing more tourists from Europe. That includes Russia, Germany, France, the UK. Part of that is likely due to airlines adding more direct flights or increasing frequency from Europe.
Okay, Europe's up. Anywhere else?
Tourists from the Middle East are also increasing, specifically from Saudi Arabia and the UAE. And India is expected to show growth too, assuming there aren't more conflicts like the India-Pakistan one we mentioned.
So Europe, Middle East, potentially India. That sounds like a glimmer of hope. But you're saying it's not enough to really move the needle on the overall numbers.
That's the assessment, yeah.
Is it just because those markets are smaller volume compared to China or Malaysia? Or is there another reason they can't compensate?
It's largely a volume issue. While the growth from Europe and the Middle East is positive, the sheer number of visitors just doesn't compare to the historically massive numbers from China or neighboring Malaysia. So even with those positive trends, the overall picture is dragged down by the significant drops from those traditionally dominant source markets. It's like trying to fill a big bucket with a small cup when the main tap's been turned down.
Got it. And you mentioned it's not just who's coming, but how they're spending their money that's changing too.
That's right. Thailand seems to be seeing more of what the report calls young traveler and middle-income groups.
And how do they behave differently?
They appear to be notably more cautious with spending. The observation is they're cutting back on things like souvenir purchases, maybe choosing local street food more often instead of pricier restaurants.
Interesting. So more budget conscious overall.
It seems so. The average spending per person per trip is now around 47,000 baht. That's actually a slight decrease, about 1.9%, compared to pre-COVID levels in 2019.
A decrease in spending per person, even with some inflation.
Yeah, it's a subtle shift, but economically, it has ripples. It tells us that even eager travelers are becoming, let's say, savvier with every baht, focusing more on essential experiences over discretionary spending.
That's a really powerful signal, isn't it? It must force destinations like Thailand to rethink their whole tourism economic model.
Absolutely. It becomes a very delicate balancing act, trying to attract visitor numbers without sacrificing the overall economic value, the profitability.
Okay, so with all these challenges, are there any bright spots, any mitigating factors that could help cushion the blow?
Well, the report does mention that Thailand is hosting some global sporting events like the Women's Volleyball World Championship, the SEA Games, the ASEAN Para Games.
Okay, big events, do they help?
They help a bit, sure, but the assessment is that these positive factors are unfortunately unlikely to fully offset the larger negative trends we've been discussing.
Why not? Don't big events bring in lots of people?
They do, but they often bring in a very specific group, the dedicated fans, for a relatively short period. They don't necessarily attract the broader leisure tourist market that makes up the bulk of visitors. And crucially, they don't really counteract those persistent underlying issues like the safety perception or the rising costs people face day to day. So yes, they're a welcome boost, but they're not really a silver bullet for these bigger trends.
Right, not a silver bullet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's recap. Thailand's tourism sector, a global favorite, is really facing some headwinds. We've got the slowing global economy, geopolitical instability causing uncertainty, a perceived dip in its own competitiveness, that's safety concerns and rising costs, the value for money question, and maybe most significantly, this escalating international competition. Everyone wants a piece of the tourism pie.
Exactly.
What this really shows, I think, isn't just a specific challenge for Thailand, but maybe a universal truth for the industry now. Perceived value and safety are just becoming absolutely critical, especially as competition heats up globally.
That's a great way to put it.
It's not enough just to be beautiful anymore. Destinations have to be trusted and feel accessible and offer good value.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, you see the changing face of global tourism. It demands constant adaptation. Like you said, just being beautiful or exotic isn't enough anymore. You need to compete on multiple fronts: price, safety, ease of access, unique experiences. Which I think raises a really interesting question for you, the listener. As destinations compete more and more fiercely, what value do you prioritize most when you're choosing where to travel next? Is it cost, safety, uniqueness, something else?
That is good food for thought. And you know, if you've ever found yourself scrolling flight deals lately, you've probably noticed this competition playing out. Countries are literally battling for your travel dollars, your euros, your pounds, and Thailand is now feeling that pressure more intensely than perhaps ever before. We hope this deep dive has given you a clearer, maybe more nuanced understanding of the challenges facing one of the world's truly most beloved travel spots.